we might have to think about how we actually want to use that.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. I think our law enforcement system needs to be massively overhauled.
I agree.
And pulled back from a lot of the fronts it's engaged in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, if we're going to get into, the military giving them old military equipment, the militarization of the police, the prison system in our country, which is beyond grotesque.
Well, I think it all comes down to the idea that our justice system right now is centered on punitive justice. So
it's also gotten tangled up in capitalism.
Yeah.
I mean,
the fact that it makes money is a problem.
Yeah, for-profit prisons or prison
or
labor.
hospitals for. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so like one of the Democratic senators who's probably going to be running for president, she's a establishment type, Kamala Harris. She was, I don't know this super well, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think she was the Attorney General in California.
Oh, okay.
She's a California senator.
There's a Hawaiian.
Tulsi Gabbard.
I
love Tulsi Gabbard.
Was she the one on Joe Rogan?
Yeah,
recently?
she's great.
Is
she
she
was on
a
Jimmy
senator?
Dore too. Yeah, she's a senator from Hawaii.
Yeah, she sounded really cool.
She was the first one to come out for Bernie. And she actually lost her position it was like up in the higher ranks of the Democratic Party because she came out for Bernie. Yeah.
I like how it's coming out. Like, get out of the closet.
We
know you like Bernie.
I wish she would go as his VP.
That'd be awesome.
For 2020 because she picks up all of his weak points. She's a young minority woman from the military with a focus on foreign policy and reeling in empire.
That's insane.
Fuck yeah.
That's a winning ticket for sure.
Whoa. Bazinga.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you saying?
Oh, jeez. Anyway, so Kamala Harris. I think she was the former Attorney General in California. And there was a few issues with her. But one of the big ones was that, the state of California told her department to release a bunch of, nonviolent offenders or something like that.
Mm.
And her department's response was, well, we can't do that because we'll lose jobs in the prison.
She worked in the San Francisco District Attorney's Office and the City Attorney of San Francisco's office. In 2004, she was elected District Attorney of San Francisco.
Okay.
And was elected California's Attorney General in 2010, and then re-elected in 2014. And then in 2016, she got into the Senate.
Yep. So she's essentially the successor to the Clinton wing of the party. Anyone who talks against her progressive credentials, they're calling racist or sexist on the left, and
that's gross.
Trying to counter any Bernie people attacking her early on. She's not going on small dollar donations. She's got a super PAC and taking big money and all that shit. So yeah.
Right.
Bummer.
Anyway,
is Bernie running in 2020?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's pretty much
Did he-
guaranteed.
I know he.
Everyone
towards
close
it,
to
but-
him in his campaign is saying it's happening.
Yeah.
And I've seen a couple interviews where he plays around with the question. So
That'd be sweet if Tulsi. What was her name?
Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard.
She's got a great record. I think she'd be a perfect running mate for him.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Bernie Gabbard. 2020.
Yeah, dude. I'm all over it. I'm on that train.
Is Clinton pretty much done? I hope
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
God,
She has to.
I don't
be,
think she
right?
wants to be, but
Such
she
a
is.
cunt.
Well, no one else is.
Oh, that's a strong one.
I mean it. I mean every bit.
I'm no Hillary fan. Yeah, no, I do despise. That's the thing is, it's not just about her as a person. I despise the entire political apparatus and ideology that she represents, which is, the corporate Democratic establishment, the whole turning away from the New Deal with Bill Clinton and becoming Republican light and all of that. I could go into that for a whole episode.
Yeah, it's gross.
Not to mention the tactics used in the 2016 election, which in and of themselves have drastically radicalized my points of view. So congratulations, Democratic Party.
Yeah. I hope that worked on a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, I think it spawned a lot of political upheaval
Good.
on the left, seeing that happen.
I think that's what we need, because one of the things that's happened to the left is it's become like a caricature of what it's supposed to be.
Well, it was... Dude, it was... I don't want to blame the left, because the left was savagely attacked during the Cold War. I mean, there was a left-wing inquisition. An inquisition against the left in this country.
Like the communism.
The Red Scare.
The Red Scare, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hardcore.
Yeah.
I mean, there used to be communist and socialist parties in this country that were mainstream. You know, you had Eugene Debs in World War I get 3 million votes trying to win against Woodrow Wilson. From jail. They put him in jail and he still got 3 million votes.
Jesus, that's crazy.
I mean, fuck, dude. And that was the Socialist Party of America.
Wow.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It's just frustrating because what they've turned into is such a joke, you know. And it's like all the stupid issues that I think are, they just don't talk about anything that really matters anymore.
Well, they've been
No one does,
effectively
right?
channeled into non-threatening avenues.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
And they're just like calling the race card or the gender card
Yeah.
or whatever. They just have these cards that they play of this bullshit.
Well, that's because folks, first of all, it can be easily used as a political weapon.
Yep.
Second of all, focusing on those things from the point of view of the Democratic Party itself is a very effective way to steer the conversation away from anything that actually endangers their power.
Yeah.
Or the interests of their donors. Because, you know, it's like Martin Luther King said when he started moving towards economic justice, is, you know, it didn't cost the nation 1 penny to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation 1 penny to give the black man the right to vote. We're needing to talk about things that are going to cost billions of dollars now.
Yeah.
Like, that's really where this is. And you see that exactly. I mean, MLK is a perfect example. As soon as he went to economic justice instead of racial justice, liberal whites turned on him, like hardcore, almost immediately, especially in the establishment.
Yeah. It's fucked up.
And it's so ironic because if you're actually going to talk about, you know, racial justice or, you know, feminism or, you know, gender issues, you can't talk about those without dealing with economic injustice or capitalism or, you know, government by moneyed interests. I mean, you can't.
Well, I mean, you just look at it. Yeah, it's how it functionally works. You know,
I
it's
mean,
like,
how do you talk about a prison industry that's, you know, got all these minorities locked up and not talk about, you know, the economic system that spawns where they came from, or the prison system that benefits off of their what is essentially slave labor?
Well, one thing that was that Harari. So I'm gonna probably talk a little bit like or bring in a lot of Sapiens. Because,
dude, I'm glad you're listening to that.
Yeah, I just went through it like really quick.
It's so good.
But one of the things that he brought up that I thought was really good was his. He said that like racism is now changed to like culturism. But there's no real word that's been used for culturism, but instead there's obviously explicit racism.
So what do you mean by that? What's
but
culturism?
yeah, so what I was going to say is like culturism is the same idea of like attacking someone, but instead for their culture. So you would say, because like the only thing that would then be like, yeah, you say like, okay, well look at the systems that they're working in, right? What the minorities are working in, because like you would hope that, well, if you say that the economic system and the justice system are working functionally correct, then you have to like somehow account for the fact that there is a disproportionate amount of minorities that are in the prisons.
Right.
And so you would say, oh well, it's their culture.
Yeah, right.
And then it's like and then you can be like, oh well, I'm not being racist. It's just their cultures are centered on these bad morals, and they end up like fighting each other a lot and attacking each other.
Okay, first of all, we could certainly critique that in and of itself.
Real. And
but then even giving that ridiculous statement, to then say that you can separate the culture as it exists now from where it's come from.
Yeah.
I mean, emerging through the darkness of slavery and Jim Crow Reconstruction and all these things. I mean, they've never been able to escape.
Yeah.
Into, you know, a position of equality. I mean, it's never happened in a broad sense.